Hi, I'm Jeff Bermudez.
And I'm Omar Kadri.
Welcome to The Collective Journey.
Join us as we explore some of the most promising talents, thought leaders, and change influencers in our city and beyond.
As we uncover these hidden gems, I hope you'll find that they're people just like you and I, with hopes and dreams and gifts that they would like to show to the world.
It is our mission to share their work, to share their story, and to appreciate what our community is capable of producing.
This is my adventure.
This is your adventure.
This is our collective journey. Welcome to this week's installment of The Collective Journey. Last week, we began our conversation with Brandon House. He shared some of his stories growing up and what it was like to deal with his own sexuality and overall uniqueness as a human being. We had the chance to hear the emotional roller coaster that was his journey to accepting himself and to learning that people accepted him. Today, we are blessed with another opportunity to continue speaking to Brandon. We get another look into a side of the human experience that is often misunderstood. Join us once again as we converse with the one and only Brandon House.
To go back a little bit, have you ever had anybody say that you being gay is just a phase? Or
Oh yeah, definitely.
What was that like, and how did that conversation go?
I only ever heard that from people who I deemed as not important.
Okay.
Like as people who weren't gonna, had no bearance on my life. So I was just kind of like, okay, thank you.
Just brush it off?
Yeah, I mean, it's like okay, damn, that hurt, but it's not anything to worry about past this point now.
Do you ever think that in isolated cases there are phases of that?
Yeah. So I think in a couple different ways. So there's definitely, I don't know if it's so much a thing anymore, or maybe it's because now I'm not like a teenager. I don't see it anymore, but It was definitely like the cool thing to pretend that you were into the same sex. But that only really was cool if you were a female, though, in high school. So, so like there's that type of phase where like people do it for attention. And then I think there's people who maybe, and this is more of my growing up era because there is more education about it now, but it does still happen. But people maybe misidentifying what they are. So you hear stories about people who are trans and have like sex change operations, and then they realize like, oh no, I wasn't trans, I was just gay, or I was just pan, or I was just whatever. There's so many, and so I think maybe a phase of people not understanding truly what they are. I think there's kind of those two aspects to it.
So let me ask you this. You said that your mom knew. How did she know? Was it just because of your attitude?
Probably a little bit of that, because that's definitely a thing.
Well, let me rephrase the question. Why is it that the stereotypical gay person acts in such a flamboyant way? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is it that makes, I don't know, like eccentric attitude?
So
why is that a thing?
Why is that a thing?
It's funny that you asked that because, and let me finish my sentence before you
No,
get a feeling.
I just
it is a little bit homophobic, but only if not the way you just said it, but it's homophobic when people say that in a judgmental way or in intention. That means that they're judging you right off the bat. Yeah. Like if somebody comes up to me like, why do you sound like that? Like that's homophobic. The way you're asking it, that's educational. And those are the types of questions that like should be asked. And so like the word you're looking for is flamboyant. That's not it's not an offensive word.
Okay.
So that's fine. So to be honest, the answer is I don't know. Like to be completely honest, I would like to think it boils down to the fact that like being gay isn't a choice, and it is something like that's like part of you, like it's something that's defined at some point before, maybe as you're being developed in the womb, or maybe it's something I don't know. We don't know. But I don't think it's anything that is triggered via like experience. I think it's just something that it's just something that develops. So it's funny because like in the LGBTQ plus community, we have words for all of these things and terms for all of these things, and it's definitely okay for us to say them to each other, and I think most of them are probably okay for straight people to say as well, but there's a fear for those people that are conscious about not wanting to offend.
Yeah.
So like there's butch, there's flamboyant, there's masculine. You know, some people, I don't know if this is an older term, I don't know if it's used anymore, but like a lesbian that like looks as what a stereotypical straight woman would look at, that'd be like a lipstick lesbian. Like there's so many different words for all of them.
So like the way that I'm sounding when I ask these questions, like do I sound like an ignorant person or like
No.
a homophobe? Like, it's just out of curiosity.
It just makes it worse when you do that.
Yeah.
He's fine with it.
Okay.
Yeah. I can sense your I can sense your hesitation with it.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I
But
want to follow up that question then. Were there ever points in your life then where you tried to conceal that? Where you deepen your voice?
There's still
when-
times that I do it.
Really?
Yeah. If I ever get into a situation where, so there's a saying, you never stop coming out of the closet. I've always had to tell another person I'm gay. I mean, at this point, I don't think it's that hard. Like if you're, I don't know, well-rounded, cultured, I don't know, open, I think it's easy for you to just understand I'm gay when you meet me. And also like with my close friends and that, like we talk about like boys or we talk about girls. It just depends. So like, and I've always been around a good circle of friends that where we can always just openly talk about these things. We can talk about race. So that always comes up, and whether it's this, that, the other thing, like at some point, like it's just understood that I'm gay. At least that's why I feel, and that's why I prefer it, because I really would love to never have to come out of the closet again. But unfortunately, that's just not the way the world works right now. And some people think that we should get to a place where you never have to ask or you never have to assume. But I don't know if I agree with that. I think that's your identity, and I think it's an important part to be pronounced. But there's ways to do it, and yeah, there's still times that I hide it, but it's not a shame thing. It's most of the time it's like I don't have the time to get into
Like a
this with you right
convenience
now.
thing.
It's a convenience thing. There's still been a
That's a
couple
good way of
times,
looking
like
at
I
it.
would say in like my adult life in the last 2-3 years, that like there's been times where I'm like, okay, I'm not bringing this up because it's going to cause more problems than I care to deal with right now. And I guess you could equate that to convenience as well, but it's more of like a don't stir the pot. So there's that.
So I want to give this context question as well.
Okay.
So you mentioned, and we know that being gay or bi or even straight is not a choice.
Right.
You know, you can't choose how someone makes you feel, right? You can't choose who gives you butterflies. Has there ever been like a female that you've kind of felt really attracted to or really wanted to be with?
No.
No. Okay.
But it's funny that you say that, because there's also so we have our own battles inside the LGBTQ plus community as well.
Okay.
So one that I can talk about just recently happened to me just a couple months ago is I started talking to this guy. We were really hitting off. Like I was having such a great time just talking to him. We finally set a date. A couple days before the date, he texted me that he had to tell me something. It was really important. He built it up so much. It just gave me a whole bunch of disclaimers, like, and if you need to stop talking to me after this, that's completely fine. You won't hurt my feelings. And I was like, what in the heck is he going to tell me? Like, he has a kid, because he was hyping it up so much, I thought, well, it's bad. It's something bad. Like that means I'm not going to want to talk to him anymore. So I guess the things that were coming to my head that maybe I felt I wasn't ready to deal with yet. Like, I don't want a kid yet. I don't feel I'm ready for a kid yet. So I guess that's the worst thing I could think of in the moment. And he said, I'm trans. And I was like, oh, in my head. And I thought, oh, okay. And then I've never been with a trans person romantically. So that was a completely different field for me. And I just remember I had to go talk to my best friend, and I was like, what do I do? And then they just basically told me, like, you have to just decide, like, you have to think about, like, is this a problem for you? Like, worst case scenario is that they might not have the genitalia that you're thinking of going in, that you're accustomed to, or they might not have the pitch of voice you're accustomed to, or maybe some physical features that you're not.
And you couldn't tell.
No,
couldn't-
not from the photo or texting.
So this person was female to male that liked males.
Yes.
Okay.
So within 2 minutes, and I remember knowing that, like, I was like, I can't like not answer for a long time, because that's going to be a horrible feeling for that person. So I ultimately came to the decision that I liked talking to him more than how nervous I got thinking of, like, okay, what is the worst case scenario about him being trans? So I just messaged him back and said, that's fine. That's cool. I was like, I've never dated or talked to a trans person before, so I'll probably have questions. And he said, just ask anything you want. And there's go-to questions you can ask, and there's some standard questions like you shouldn't ask unless you have permission because it's a bit more private. And so I asked some questions, and that was fine. And ultimately, my biggest concern, I think, was, well, what if he doesn't have the genitalia that I'm accustomed to? And so I had to really think about that for a couple of days. Is that going to be something I'm going to be able to deal with? And it's interesting that you even have to have that thought process with yourself, but at the same time, it's fair, I think, because I'm gay, and all my life I've known that to be a certain thing, and we're getting to a point now where maybe certain things that we thought like genitalia or pitch of voice or whatever, that doesn't necessarily define a gender. So ultimately, I decided that it was not something that was going to be an issue. So not saying that this person is a girl or was ever a girl, because they felt that they've always been a boy, and they started hormone therapy at a really young age, 13 or something. So now they're 25. So I definitely couldn't tell that they were a trans person. So it was kind of eye-opening for me to my own sexuality. I thought I already had it all figured out, but
Yeah.
I guess you learn about yourself all the time.
I'd imagine that feeling was your whole life you thought you were on the outs, and then there's
Yes.
an even outer circle
Yeah.
that you didn't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, wow. There's
And
levels to this.
those are battles inside of the community where we have intolerancies towards ourselves.
So
Okay.
can we ask what ended up happening?
Yeah, so I messaged him back right away and told him it wasn't a problem. I was still come over. The date was we were gonna have a pumpkin carving contest at my place, and I was gonna bake all the
Oh, this
pumpkin
was
trees.
recently.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
This was in October.
Wow.
And then they ghosted me, and it actually was it's funny because we had never met, so you'd think it would be easy to get over it, but because we had talked for so long too, and then I felt he trusted me so much enough to tell me this and trust me with this. Maybe it's something he's used to telling people, and that's fine, but I felt I was being trusted with this, and that he respected me enough to tell me, and I respected him enough to answer and ask questions, and I guess be okay and open to it. So it really sucked that I got ghosted, because in the end it really didn't matter to me.
You did say there's different types of lesbians. I think you mentioned lipstick lesbian.
Those aren't different types of lesbians. They're just different terms that were used
Okay.
to identify different physically looking lesbians.
Okay, sorry. So my bad. Is there different terms to categorize, or what did you say?
Yeah.
Terms to categorize
Gay men?
Gay men.
Yep, there's lots with the gay. So this has actually been in TV shows. There's a TV show. It's canceled now, but it was called The Real O'Neills,
Mm-hmm.
and it was about this Irish Catholic family. It was super, super funny. The main character was the oldest son of the Irish Christian family, and he was gay, and he finally came out, and the family is falling in shambles because the mother's going to the church, and she's the biggest pleaser of the church, etc. And so they did an episode on the different terms for gay men, and there's tons. They might sound comical to some, but you have your standards that anybody would understand, like jock, geek, and then there's obscure ones like maybe some people know, but there's twink, otter, bear. They're all basically to define a physicality. And then there's some ones that I even hear sometimes, and I'm like, what is this one? And you have to think about it for a second. And on The Real O'Neills, there was giraffe, and I was like, what the heck is that? And it was just a tall person.
A tall gay person?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which
Wow.
I thought that was a stretch, but no pun intended. And
Are there any ones that denote personality? Those who are meek, those who are
Geek.
aggressive?
geeky.
Geeky, okay. Oh, I guess
No.
the jock would be someone that's aggressive.
Yeah, you could be. Yeah. The thing is any of those people can be either or.
So it's just physical,
Yeah,
strictly. Okay.
pretty much.
Let me ask you this. This is another question I have just from
Yeah.
observation, I guess. I noticed because you mentioned TV. In TV, it's becoming more and more normal for gay characters to be implemented
Yeah.
into shows. I find that there's like other shows where it's like they just threw a character in there that's gay, like just to kind of like do it. Like
Yeah.
that's how I felt about The Walking Dead. Like I don't know if like I felt like the character that was in there that was gay.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like as watching it, like they just threw it in there
So it
just
was there.
because.
So they can say
Yeah.
there was a gay character in the show.
Yeah, like how do you feel about that? Like
I think right now it's kind of an in-between of any representation is good representation.
mhm.
But there is a bad representation also that goes with that. They again, like kind of jumping to the start of this conversation, is where like they portray that gay person as like promiscuous, always with another person.
Mhm. In Glee they do that all the time.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's that representation which none of us have really liked, because while that is definitely a thing that happens, that's not all.
Mhm.
So it's the same. You can easily be transferred over to straight people. Like there's people that don't want a relationship, that they like meeting new people all the time, and there's people that want just one person. So
Are you a Harry Potter fan?
yeah, of course.
How did you feel when you found out Dumbledore was gay?
I thought it was great. A lot of people say that, and I just recently learned about this, is there's a lot of people in the gay community, or at least some, that say that JK said that after the franchise became successful. As well as that now in the new movie, Nagini is a Korean woman. And that was done after the franchise became successful. And she, of course, has had rebuttals that the signs were there from very, very beginning. And there's tons of Easter eggs in Harry Potter, and then things are still being discovered. And she still tweets things like, "Oh, by the way, this is what actually this was," and people lose their minds over it. And so I thought it was great. I thought it was fitting, and I thought it made perfect sense. And it makes even more sense too now that Crimes of Grindelwald is out, and why, like, there's a line in it that young Dumbledore says, "I can't move against Grindelwald," and that was an homage to the fact that he's in love with Grindelwald. Like,
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
and Grindelwald used that to manipulate Dumbledore.
You know
I
what?
haven't watched the movie.
I have nothing against her, like, even if she did put that in after it had grown. It's her universe anyway. So what if she changes it? Like, it's her universe. That's her
Exactly.
brainchild. She can do with it whatever she wants.
Is there a artist, actress, or actor that inspires you, or maybe that you've kind of found like, wow, this is someone I look up to, or someone that like really represents the gay and lesbian community, LGBTQ, very well?
Here's
For you.
Here's
Sorry.
a good segue for you guys. It sucks, but the answer to that is no, and that's mostly because I am not a great like movie buff. I'm not a good music buff. I watch movies and I watch TV shows and I listen to music, but I don't read like articles about like what so and so's doing. I have a general idea of what everybody's up to, and I appreciate them for that. And I've never really done my own thing, but I recently decided I wanted to get more involved in the community, and that's why I actually ended up joining the choir, because it is in the Pride Men's Chorus. It did originally start off as the Gay Men's Choir, but then the choir director, Rod Cullum, he decided that like there's so many people that don't fit into just the gay category that he made it Pride Men's Chorus. So anybody from our Pride community can join the choir.
So we'll talk about that. So you're in the choir right now.
Yeah.
How did you get into singing anyway? Did it go hand in hand?
So I grew up in a very musical family.
Okay.
My
going to
mom,
church.
yeah, church, I guess, was a bit of it. And I hear that my great grandmother, she wasn't a really good singer. I never got to hear it, but I remember I knew her, and I have lots of memories with her. I just never heard her sing. And my mom's a great singer. My sister and brother can both carry a tune as well. And I have this memory of my mom had this record player, and she was playing this song called No Tears Left to Cry, and it's by Barbra Streisand and Donna Summers. And it starts off really, really, really slow, and it's about the guy making the women cry, and then at the end, and then it like ends on a high note, and then goes into this like really sped up song about kicking the guy out of the house, like get him out of here, he's not worth your time. And my mom, I remember she was singing it to me and my brother because we used to dance to it. And I think maybe this time it was just her singing it to me, but she was holding one of the notes. And there's a term in music where you hold a note and you kind of, I don't know how to explain it, where then you kind of shake the note, you go up and down on the note a little bit. It's called vibrato. And it kind of brings like a ringing effect to the singing.
Could you give like an example of it?
So is it like oscillating?
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Would you be able to like, do it right now, or?
Yeah, sure. Like, so like it can be on any note. So if you just sing like do, that's just like normal. But then if you do vibrato, it's like do, and it kind of like goes back and forth there. So my mom was really, really good at it. And she was in singing competitions growing up. And so I remember asking her like, how do you do that? And then she didn't know how to explain it to me, so she just pulled my head to her chest and she placed my ear on her like diaphragm, and then I just kind of like learned how to do it from that. So we'd always sing, do that, and then I was in piano lessons, I think starting in grade 3, and did that all the way till the end of high school, and I think a bit after high school. So grade 3 to I did 13. I did a victory lap, so that would have been 10 years, 11 years of piano lessons. There was a year, I think, in the middle somewhere that I didn't do it, and then I went back. And then, of course, throughout high school, public music program, I picked up violin, guitar, saxophone, clarinet, and just dabbled on a bunch of others. Mm-hmm. And then, so now I still have a piano, but it's at my grandmother's, and I own a guitar and a clarinet, and I joined the choir. So that's really cool. I wish I had a saxophone, but those are pretty expensive.
How did you come across that opportunity?
I was talking to some people at work her name's Francesca. She went to Western University for vocal performance and is pursuing that right now. And I was kind of talking to her about it, and I was like, oh, I used to be in a school choir. It was so fun, and I missed that. And then I kind of just kept coming back to it in my mind. And so I just Googled it one night in London choirs, and whether it's, I don't know how, I mean, it was targeted to me, but the very first one that showed up was Pride Men's Chorus right at the top of Google. So I thought, well, let's look at this. So I went to their website, looked at some of their past work, and it was great. And so I messaged the choir director, Rod, and he emailed me back pretty much within 12 hours, I think. And he said, just come in and come sing for us. Let's hear where we can put you. And I went in, and I've been there since.
I imagine that room has a lot of energy in it.
It is. It's funny, too, because like I said, I'd never been part of that community. I've never actively been part of the LGBTQ plus community. And it was almost kind of like watching a parody of myself, or what I think people experience when they meet me for the first time, and I'm maybe in like a good mood and like a playful mood. I just remember like it was almost like an out of body experience, and I was just kind of like looking at it. I'm like, this is what people see when they meet me, like, and it was so funny and it was fun, and it's cool because it's like it's a completely relaxed area. Like, I'm just like, there's literally zero judgment here. So like there's people in the choir that are in their 70s, there's people in their teens.
Do you guys ever do shows, or?
Yeah, so we have a Christmas concert December 1st, so that will have already passed probably by the time this airs, and then we have 2 concerts coming up. I have the dates here, actually.
Sounds like it'd be a really, really fun show to watch.
Where's the venue, or the venues?
So we usually we perform at the Aeolian.
Okay.
And that's on Dundas Street.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our Christmas concert December 1st, and then we have our next concert, which is going to be it's our Easter concert, and that's going to be on let's see here. So Saturday, April 27th is our concert at the Aeolian Hall, and that's going to be our Easter concert. And then we do have our summer concert that's going to be on, it's like our Pride concert, because that's Pride Month, and that's July 25th.
I imagine there's a lot of young people that were in the same situation you were in.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to give them advice right now, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that come out when you're ready. come out when you feel it's safe. Your parents will hopefully love you, and I think we're moving more towards that, so you're safer that way. But ultimately, a lot of people are pressured to coming out. So my biggest advice would be kind to others. It's easy to be nice to other people. And speaking to other people in the LGBTQ plus community, come out when you're ready and when you feel it's safe.
What would you recommend for individuals like that who need a support system? How would you go about obtaining that?
Seek out people in the same community. It can be hard sometimes. Just keep your eyes open. There are people all around, especially in bigger cities now. It's not the same as what it was when I was growing up, where you don't have many people. But there are people here. There's groups in schools. You can always talk to a guidance counselor if you're in high school, what may have you. But seek out other people in your community. Seek out a best friend. Seek out somebody you can confide in. Sometimes all you need is one person just to help take the burden off. And if you can find that one person, then you should be okay.
Okay.
Are there any platforms that we can follow you on? Do you have any initiatives that you want to plug right now?
Yeah, so the Pride Men's Chorus, they have a website. Just Google Pride Men's Chorus London, Ontario. It should be the first one that comes up. And actually, my company that I work for has a great Instagram. I really love the company I work for. It's not what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, but I love working for them currently. It's TLS Connecting Voices on Instagram. And if you want to learn some cool recipes for some vegan food, you can follow me and my roommate. It's marleyandme.vgn.
How's Marley spelled?
Marlee.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Collective Journey. If you or somebody you know would like to be on the show, hit us up on any of our social media. We are Collective Journey on Facebook. We are Collective Journey on YouTube. We are Collective_Journey on Instagram. And always remember, this is not just my adventure, but it's yours as well. This is our collective journey.